Spooks, and welcome to a joyous autumn equinox day. So, as you know, it is the 22nd of September, and that means the first day of autumn. Though, technically speaking, it's probably the last day of summer, or is it the last day of summer and the first day of autumn? I have no idea. You decide. But anyway, so to celebrate the occasion, I do have a recipe to purge all the negative emotions from throughout the year. Yeah, it's a pumpkin spice recipe. But you know what they say, pumpkin spice coffee equals pumpkin spice potion, so pumpkin spice potion cookies? We'll just go with that. So we'll see you in the kitchen. Alright, spooks, so I have our ingredients that we're going to be using for this recipe. So, for this recipe, you're going to need baking powder, baking soda, sugar, flour, cinnamon. You can use regular salt, but I'm going to use a Himalayan pink salt. I have a grinder, so that's how we're going to be grinding that. Ground clove, ground nutmeg. You're going to need pumpkin, obviously, because it's pumpkin spice, you know what I mean? Anyway, so you're going to need brown sugar, chocolate chips. I'm going with the special dark chocolate chips. Then you're going to need dried cranberries, optional, but I think the dried cranberries give it a really good taste. Then optional, but we're going to be using some white icing. For this recipe, you will also need half a stick of unsalted butter, and you're going to need 1 egg. So for all of your wet ingredients, you're going to need the butter, the egg, and of course the pumpkin. Before I go any further, I actually wanted to tell you a bit more about this recipe. So when I was in elementary school, we did this activity where we paired off with younger students. So I was in 3rd or 4th grade, I can't remember exactly. And one of those times we were watching some type of Halloween movie, maybe we were watching Hocus Pocus or the story of the Jack-o'-lantern. And one of the teachers, she actually brought these chocolate chip pumpkin spice cookies that were really, really good. And I have not forgotten them since then, and this recipe is actually my attempt at trying to bake those pumpkin spice cookies. So it's a recipe kind of dear to my heart that brings back wonderful fall memories. So they're not just magical pumpkin spice potion cookies. So I hope it makes this recipe more meaningful for you and your family if you decide to make it. As you can tell, I'm very spooky looking, wearing my pink apron. Yeah, this is the only apron I have, and unless I want to get flour all over this black, we ain't gonna chance it. So, anyway, some of the tools you'll need for this recipe are can opener, measuring spoons, ice cream scooper, regular spoon, wooden spoon. Of course, you can also use an electric blender, but I'm old-fashioned, so I'm just going to use this wooden spoon. Plus, I just like cooking with the wooden spoon. And of course, some measuring cups, a bowl to mix all your ingredients in. And of course, you're going to need a cookie sheet, which I don't have with me, but I have on the stove. And okay, and those are all the tools you're going to need. And what I have already done is I have preheated my oven to 350 degrees. Okay, it's preheated. Oh, right, I was going to tell you this is for approximately 1 dozen cookies. Yes, very important. Okay, there we go. Right, so ingredients are on the side with measurements and everything else you're going to need. So typically what I do when I bake cookies is I like to arrange the dried ingredients with each other first, and then I'll eventually go in and add the wet ones. That's just how I do it. Don't ask me why. That's just my style, okay? Okay, so let's get started. Alright, spooks, and we're back, and I have my Himalayan salt in here just so you know ahead of time. So the first thing we're going to start with is we're going to start with the flour. So to make approximately 12 cookies, you're going to need 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. So here's my flour, and to measure, I'm going to be using a 2-cup measuring cup, a 2 cups cup, like we said in our first video with the pumpkin spice coffee. Which, hey, by the way, if you haven't seen that recipe, I recommend you check it out, because pumpkin spice coffee would probably go really good with pumpkin spice cookies. Okay, so this is where we're going to be using our silver spoon, and like I said, we're going to measure approximately 1/4 a cup of flour. So, okay, actually, it would make more sense if I probably put this bowl here, put the cup in here. Like I said, it's probably gonna get messy. Seems about right. So we're gonna put in our 1/4 cup of flour. Next, we're going to add 1/2 cup of white sugar. So 1/2 cup of white sugar. Screw the spoon. And that's good enough. Okay, so 1/2 cup of sugar. Then we're going to need 1/2 cup of brown sugar. So I'm just tossing it in there. This teaspoon of baking powder. So I got my measuring utensils, and we're gonna go with 1/2 teaspoon. Unfortunately, with this, we can't say screw the spoon, because we actually do need the spoon for this. 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda. We're just going to use 3 of these 1/4 ones. So it's 3/4 of baking soda. So 1, 2, and this is important when it comes to adding your baking soda and baking powder. Don't just guesstimate it. The mean is because the baking powder and the baking salt actually alter the softness of your cookies. Then the recipe calls for 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm gonna guesstimate it and just grind. Add our cinnamon. Yes, I'm guesstimating here because there's no cinnamon obviously mentioned in this recipe. I like a lot of cinnamon. You can use no cinnamon, you can use less cinnamon. It's all up to you. A bit of nutmeg, a bit of ground clove. I think I'm probably using at most about 1/4 teaspoon of these. So that's 1/4 teaspoon of the ground nutmeg and of the ground clove. Next, using our wooden spoon, we're going to mix it together. You want to mix it so everything gets well mixed together and basically just makes a good batter for you. You're going to mix this first, then I'm going to go ahead and toss in the chocolate chips and toss in my cranberries. It's mixed decently. Do you think that's mixed decently? It smells really good, like cinnamon and basically your typical pumpkin spices, which is all good. Then you can toss in however many you want. I think cranberries, let's not be too tight with the cranberries. You know, in retrospect, I think this is almost like a sweet potato casserole that you would have at Thanksgiving. I mean, thinking about it, what goes into a sweet potato casserole? Well, sweet potatoes, cinnamon, brown sugar, nutmeg, butter, and I don't even remember what else. Oh, maybe like dried raisins or dried cranberries, I don't remember. Open your chocolate chips, put in however many you want. Don't put in the whole bag though, because then you can't swipe some for yourself. Then you're gonna mix all of that together. Even though the recipe doesn't call for it, I think I'm actually gonna add some vanilla into this recipe. I'd first like to know something very, very important. If anyone tells you that cooking and baking is a woman's work, send them my way, because that's bullshit. You'll see what I mean. Secondly, if someone ever tells you that cooking and baking is a woman's job only, here's what you're gonna do. First, you're gonna send them my way. I'm gonna boo slap them with my wooden spoon, and then you're gonna throw together some cookies add in some wet ingredients and you're gonna force them to mix it. Oh, then they'll see what a woman's work is then, huh? Trust me. You want to build muscle? Bake some cookies. Cup of pumpkin. So I'm going to just put my pumpkin in. In the original recipe, you put in half a cup of peanut butter, because like I said, this was originally a peanut butter cookie recipe from allrecipes.com, but easily you swap the peanut butter for the pumpkin. I'm going to add the butter to soften this more easily, so I have approximately half a cup of melted butter. I figured it'd make it easier to mix if I melt the butter, so we have half a cup of melted butter. If you're gonna force someone to mix up some cookie dough because they think that cooking and baking is a woman's job only, you're gonna want to make sure you use a wooden spoon and not an electric blender. You just need to scrape the flour from the bottom. That's something you want to make sure you do. It's starting to look kind of like sweet potato casserole. So it's like this orangish color. It looks beautiful in my opinion. It's mixed with the orange color of the pumpkin with the dark red of the cranberries and the brown of the chocolate chips. It looks beautiful. Egg. Mix the egg into our batter. Then once I have the egg mixed in with the batter, then I'm going to add the vanilla seasoning, because what I want to do is I want to first make sure that everything is nice and wet and sticking together. That way the vanilla can actually spread more easily. Now I'm just getting tired. See, it's like much smoother now, and that's kind of what we want. We want to make sure there's no flour hanging out in here somewhere. So I'm just gonna again scrape the bottom. Then we're going to use our vanilla. This is a generic vanilla. How much do you put in here? Follow your heart. So follow your heart, but within reason. So I'm just gonna follow my heart and put some vanilla in here. I'd say probably put close to maybe 1 teaspoon. 1 teaspoon to 1 teaspoon and a half. You know what? It smells like pumpkin pie. If you like pumpkin pie, these cookies are for you. I'm actually going to grab my cookie tray now, and I'm going to start setting it up to start putting these cookies on the sheet. So I'll be right back. We are back. So like I said, you need cookie sheet. Boom, cookie sheet. I've already put on the foil on my cookie sheet, and I've also put in foil just for safety precaution. We have the air conditioning wanting to blow the aluminum off. As you recall, I said we're going to need an ice cream scooper, so you're just going to take your ice cream scooper, scoop up some cookie dough, and I think you know what comes next, right? So scoop up your cookie dough, then just put it on your cookie sheet. And we're going to do that. I think we have enough space here for approximately 1 dozen cookies, which is precisely how many we want to do that. So go figure. Okay, note, make sure your cookies are 2 inches apart from each other, because they're gonna grow, they're gonna expand, they're gonna become big boys and girls, so make sure you have enough space. I have enough dough left over for 3 more cookies. I have enough dough left over for 3 more cookies. I have enough dough left for 3 more cookies. Anyway, so I have my cookies. Do not obsess over perfection. They're not going to be perfect. Trust me, they're not going to be perfect. Plus, you're going to eat them anyway, so don't obsess over perfection. That said, however, like I said, don't obsess over perfection. Once you crank up the heat to 375, then you're going to pop them in for 10 minutes. So I'm going to put these in the oven, and we're not done yet. I have a surprise for you with these. Remember the icing? We're going to be using them for something. Just stay tuned. Haha, enough for 4 cookies. These are going to go by fast. I just know it. I can feel it. But 4 cookies. Okay. Haha. cookies. We're not done yet. We're gonna let these cool down, and I'm gonna show you what we're gonna use the icing for. I'll be back. Not the greatest lighting, but that's okay. So the Dollar Tree is probably where you and all your ghoul friends are gonna find stuff like this. I'm going to actually use these trays to, you guessed it, decorate our cookies, so to speak. So we're not actually decorating the cookies with icing, but rather we're going to try arranging these in a very nice way. So like I said, we're going to be using icing. So this is the cupcake icing. And I am going to attempt to make a pattern on these trays. This is how our tray looks now. And as you can see, it looks like a spider web. And the top of my icing is dripping, but that's okay. So I'm going to go get my pumpkin spice cookies, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back and with my pumpkin spice cookies. So as you know, we've been putting these to cool, so they're good to go. So I'm just going to start laying these out. I can't tell you exactly how to arrange these because it's all instinctual for me, which means that this might end up a complete disaster or not. Of course, you have the option of being OCD over this, but that defeats the purpose in my opinion. The idea is to have fun and just enjoy what you're doing. So that's exactly what I intend to do. So I'm thinking I might be able to get 5 cookies to fit on here. So we're gonna go for that 5 cookies. And yeah, there you go. So I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other tray, and we'll be right back. And you're just gonna hold it down like so.